Hey everyone, welcome to the video. Let's go over the 6-game NBA slate for today on Draftkings. And before we continue, just gotta say rest in peace to the legend Kobe Bryant. Not really much else I can say than what's already been said by everyone else, but obviously it was a tragic event. It sucks. It sucks big time. Definitely did not want to see that in the news. I'm sure everyone was distraught from it, but really not much else I can say besides rest in peace. And yeah. But gotta continue on with this slate. So before we continue, as always, if you guys could just leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Really helps me out. Really appreciate it. You also follow me on Twitter, which is right over there. Or nope, and not the shot. It's like mirrored. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna try it. I'm at Pennell 16. And if you don't follow me on Instagram for some reason, I'm at cpen16. A lot of whole interesting stuff going on over there. But if you just want to see the pictures I post, you can check it out. And then I have Patreon exclusive content available in the link in the description below for my Patreon. It includes my projections that I update all the way up until lock, my data sheet, which is I'm showing you a little portion of my data sheet as of right now. This is just the first look portion. Then in the players/projections tab, that's where you get my more updated version that I update all the way up until lock, so you get my most up-to-date info. This is just kind of like an early look player pool as of right now. You also get access to my cheat sheet, which includes my just cheat sheet, position cheat sheet, top studs, top mid-range guys, top values, my core plays, as well as my Discord chat. And also we have NASCAR coming up in February, which I'm very excited about. I believe the first race is February 9th. And if you guys are new to the channel, I started out doing NASCAR videos on YouTube. I had like 6 subscribers or something like that at that point. So that's where I got the start here. And it's my favorite sport. It's more of a niche sport, and a lot of people know what's going on. So I feel like we have a pretty big edge on NASCAR. So I'm looking forward to that. So if you guys want to check it out, it'll be coming up within a couple weeks. And also MLB's coming up, which is my second favorite sport. That was the second sport I started doing on YouTube, and I absolutely love baseball. I have a huge passion for baseball. I pretty much watch every single game every single night. So love baseball. Those sports are coming up. I do have data sheets for those as well, projections, and honestly, those are my pretty big spreadsheets. Like the MLB one's got like 40 tabs on it. It's got a main tab, but I got a lot of stuff going on for MLB, NASCAR I'm very excited about as well. And enough talking about that. Let's get into this slate, because that's why you guys are here, and my eyes are killing me, so hopefully I'm not blinking too much, but it is late, so I gotta go to bed soon. But did want to get this video out earlier for you guys, so when you like wake up or something, or if you're still up, you can watch the video earlier on in the day. So, up top, he's not my most favorite player in the slate, but I do like to go in an orderly fashion here, and he happens to be the most expensive player in my player pool as of right now. So, Zach LaVine, 9,800. He just got done crushing Cleveland. He had 72 fantasy points. I don't know if he had a triple-double. I want to say he did. I know he had a double-double for sure, but he did a little bit of everything in the stat sheet, but still, he had 72 fantasy points, absolutely crushed them. And he was pretty low owned, which I thought was pretty shocking considering it's Cleveland. But now he gets a matchup versus San Antonio, which might not sound great on paper, but San Antonio is not that great of a defensive team. Not like they were in years past. San Antonio does rank, where are they at? They rank 23rd versus point guards and 21st versus shooting guards. This is a very plus matchup for Zach LaVine. And we know the guy's got 70-point upside. Not saying he's going to get 70 points again, but I do think he's a pretty safe bet for close to 50 points, if not more, and that's kind of what you're hoping for at 9,800. Now, I will say I won't get there in cash games just because I think Drummond's a layup play at 9,600. And I really don't see myself being able to play both of these guys, but Zach LaVine, I think he's a very strong play. Actually, a little bit of a pace-up spot, too. San Antonio is 12th in pace-up play, while the Bulls are 16th. And on the year, he's at 1.2 points per minute, 31.7% usage rate. I got him projected for nearly 37 minutes in this game. I mean, I think he can get 50 points. I mean, I'm not totally expecting 50 points, but I think he's going to get you 45 plus. But I think he's a very strong GPP play, because if he was not that high owned versus Cleveland, I can't imagine he's going to be that high owned versus the Spurs. So Zach LaVine on my GPP radar. Andre Drummond, he is my favorite spend up on the slate, and I don't like to say things like this early on in the day, because I don't start building lineups till around 6, but Andre Drummond's looking like a core play for me. He gets a juicy matchup versus Cleveland, and we just know they suck in all aspects, especially on defense. I mean, they're the second worst defensive team in the NBA. Looking over at the DVP chart, Cleveland, they are pretty much dead last in everything. They're a little bit better versus big men, but that's putting it nicely. They still rank bottom 9 versus big men. They rank 21st versus the position. Andre Drummond should be able to eat here. He just recently played Cleveland in back-to-back games, and he smashed in both outings. He had over 50 fantasy points in each one. Also had a 60-plus point game versus them. I believe he had a 20-20 game. I want to say he had like Oh, it was close to a 30-30 game, if I remember correctly. He almost played 50 minutes as well. And I'm not saying he's going to do that again. I only got him projected for 34 here, but he should be able to eat versus Cleveland. He's at like 1.4 points per minute on the season. Let me see. 1.39 points per minute, over a 24% usage rate. I think he's pretty much a layup play at 9,600. He should be above 10K. If he was above 10K, I'd still have interest in him versus Cleveland because he's a 20-20 threat every single time he's on the court. He's coming off a 20-20 game. I mean, 9,600, that's kind of an easy play for me. So he's going to be pretty much a lock for me as of right now. Again, things can change, but I can't really see a situation where I'm not playing Andre Drummond at 9,600 versus Cleveland. So I've got to have interest there. Clint Capella. So you're going to see a lot of Rockets on here, and that's not because they're in a good spot, because they're not. But I don't know if you guys know this, but we have Russell Westbrook not going to be playing. We also have James Harden not going to be able to play, and that pretty much takes up about 70 to close to 80% of usage off the court on this team. So there's a lot of usage to go around here, a lot of points per minute, a lot of minutes to go around. Those guys, they are the ball hogs on the team. They have the most points per minute on the team. They have the highest usage rates on the team, and they pretty much play the most minutes. So it's wide open for the Rockets here, so we should have a lot of interest in these guys. Now, I will say DraftKings did do a good job of pricing everybody up. Like, we got guys like Ben McLemore at 5,800, Eric Gordon, he's at 7K almost. So they did a good job pricing these guys up. So they're not free squares. But, again, just those guys being off the court, we got to have interest in these Rockets. Now, I would show you guys the points per minute rates on here, but it's not going to be the same because those guys are off the court. But I did write down the numbers for you guys with those guys off the court. So I just have to listen dearly here. So Clint Capella with James Harden and Russell Westbrook off the court. Now, I will say this is only a 21-minute sample size, so you really can't go off of it too much. But in that short stint, Capella is at 1.94 points per minute. That's very darn good. And a low usage rate, but still 1.94 points per minute. Again, limited sample size, but it's the only thing I can go off of. If I had to guess, he'd probably be closer to 1.5. It's just still great at 8,500. I mean, he is expensive, I will say that. I mean, I really like paying 8,500 for Capella, especially versus Utah. It's a pace down spot, but if I remember correctly, Utah is actually somewhat okay to centers, if I can find them. Yeah, Utah versus centers is 10th, which is actually their weakest point now, or weakest link, I should say, which is not really saying much considering that's top 10. But, I mean, it's fine, Clint Capella, but his numbers are very strong with them off the court. 8,500 is a bit much of a price to pay for him, but again, there's a lot of uses to go around, a lot of point per minute bumps. So Capella is on my radar just as of right now. De'Aaron Fox, he draws a really good matchup versus Minnesota. It's actually a huge pace-up spot if we head over to the pace column. As you can see, the Kings are 24th in pace of play, but Minnesota is 3rd. So this is a massive pace-up spot. That's 21 spots. On the year, he's at 1.22 points per minute, which is fantastic. Near 30% usage rate. It's a very good matchup versus Minnesota. As you can see, they struggle pretty mightily versus guards. They rank 20th versus point guards, 26th versus shooting guards. So De'Aaron Fox, I think he's a pretty strong play. He's been playing pretty well recently as well. He's got 50, near 60 point upside. We've seen it before. So De'Aaron Fox, I think he's a pretty solid play. Donovan Mitchell. So I have concerns about this game staying close, but I don't like the project games being blowouts. So we're going to run with him getting close to 35 minutes like usual for Donovan Mitchell. And this is a fantastic matchup versus Houston. Now, I know James Harden's not a good defender at all, so maybe it's a downgrade with him being out, if you look at it that way. But still, just overall, Houston is not a good defensive team. If we head over to the DVP chart, they, I believe, are 5th worst, and they're ranked 27th versus shooting guards. They're just pretty bad in all aspects on defense. They're not really good versus anything. They're okay versus centers, but they never really shy away from them there. But Donovan Mitchell, I mean, we know the guy's got upside. He should be shooting the ball a lot here versus Houston, and I like him in pace-up spots. And we get a very big pace-up spot. If we thought that Fox matchup was a good pace-up spot, this is even better. They're 26th in pace of play, and Houston is 3rd. They're tied with Minnesota, so this is a big pace-up spot here on the season. Mitchell's got a 31% usage rate, 1.15 points per minute. Love the spot here. Love the matchup. Do I have a little bit of concerns of this game staying close without Russell Westbrook and James Harden on the court? Yes, but I don't like the project blowout, so if he gets his full 35 minutes, I think Mitchell's a pretty solid play at 7,900. Kevin Love at the same price here, 7,900. He gets a pretty good matchup here versus Detroit, and they are just pretty bad in all aspects on defense, and they do rank 22nd versus power forward, so I do like the spot for Kevin Love. And when the game's competitive, he'll see close to 35 minutes. I'm pretty conservatively here at 32.5, but if the game's competitive, should be around 35 minutes, give or take. But that's a pretty good spot here. He's at 1.15 points per minute, 23% usage rate. I think he can pretty easily double here, and the other guys got upside. So I'd say, if he gets 35, even if he gets 32 to 35 minutes, I think he's going to get you over 40 fantasy points. So Kevin Love, definitely on my radar. Derrick Rose, he's been a guy I've been playing a lot recently, and it's just because he's been playing so well, and this is a very, very, very good spot here versus Cleveland. He smashed last time he played them. He had a very good game, but you got to have interest here. I know he's pretty expensive at 7,800, but he hasn't scored less than 20 real life points since like January 5th, so the guy's been on an absolute tear. He was looking a little rough in the last game, but he thankfully pulled through at the end. He also went coast to coast to take that game to overtime, which was pretty sweet. But again, this is an elite matchup versus Cleveland. We always attack Cleveland with guards, and obviously Derrick Rose would qualify. They rank 29th versus point guards, 30th versus shooting guards. Really can't ask for a much better matchup for Derrick Rose. And on the season, he's at 1.22 points per minute with a 31% usage rate. And when you take guys like Luke Kennard and Blake Griffin off the court, he's near 1.4 points per minute with a near 36% usage rate. So Derrick Rose, I think he's one of the better GPP plays on this slate. And I wouldn't talk you out of him in cash games either. I think he's a very, very strong play. Cleveland's just so bad versus guards. We saw Zach LaVine drop 72 fantasy points versus them. So Derrick Rose, despite him almost being 8K, I think he's a very strong play at 7,800. He's cash game and GPP viable. LaMarcus Aldridge, he gets a very soft matchup down low versus Chicago. We know how bad they are versus centers and power forwards. If you head over to the DVP chart, you see these bright greens here versus Chicago. They're very good versus point guards and shooting guards. But then power forwards, 30th, and centers, they are 30th. So you got to like the matchup here for LaMarcus Aldridge. Always target big men versus Chicago. And on the season, he's at 1.11 points per minute with a 23% usage rate. I think he's a very solid play on this slate. Now, Eric Gordon. How about the price hike on Eric Gordon? Now, I know it's not because of recent performance. It's just because DraftKings knows that James Harden and Russell Westbrook are both going to be out. Now, do I feel great about paying near 7K for Eric Gordon? Absolutely not. When I was first looking at the slate, I didn't realize that James Harden already got rolled out on Monday. I was thinking, okay, that's an easy fade for me. I'm not paying 7K for Eric Gordon. And then I realized they listed James Harden as doubtful. So I was like, okay, shoot. So I had to add him on the player list here. But with both of those guys off the court, and we have a pretty decent sample size. It's not like a 20-minute sample size with Clint Capella. I don't know if I wrote it down. I did not write it down, but it's one of the higher sample sizes on this team. But both of them off the court, he's got a 39.4% usage rate. 39.4, that's pretty darn good. And then he's at 1.41 points per minute. So the numbers would suggest at 6,900, that's a bargain because Andre Drummond, he's at 1.4 points per minute on the season, and he's 9,600. I have no problem paying that much for him. And Eric Gordon, I got him projected for the same minutes, and the numbers suggest 1.41 points per minute with a near 40% usage rate. So the numbers would suggest he's a good play. Now, I don't feel great about it just because it's Eric Gordon, but he's going to shoot the ball a ton. He has no problem shooting double-digit three-pointers. He has no problem shooting the ball 20-plus times. Matchup is not that great versus Utah. They're one of the best defensive teams in the NBA, but with all those guys off the court, numbers would suggest he's a pretty strong play. Colin Sexton, so I can see myself having quite a bit of ownership in this game. I could see myself going with Drummond, Derrick Rose, and maybe running back with the Cleveland guy in either Kevin Love or Colin Sexton, or even both. But Sexton has been playing pretty well recently. Been a safe bet for about 30-plus points pretty much every single night, or high 20s, but he's fine. Now, I don't love him, but 6,700 seems a little bit much for him, but he's been fine. And on the season, he's at 0.9 points per minute, 27%. I was looking at Beliza. A 27% usage rate, which is pretty solid. And Detroit, they struggle versus guards. They rank 11th versus point guards, 18th versus shooting guards, but they're just not a very good defensive team. Now, I know they actually are pretty solid versus point guards, but I still think they're going to be fine. We've seen point guards have pretty strong games versus Detroit all season. So, Colin Sexton, he's on my GPP radar. Probably would not play him in cash games. Now, I always have a heck of a time trying to pronounce this guy's name. It's Beliza, right? Beliza? I think it's Beliza. Either way, he's a pretty strong play versus Minnesota. He's actually been playing pretty well recently, too. And Minnesota is just a really nice pace-up spot for the Kings. They play very slow. Minnesota plays pretty darn fast. And they do rank 19th versus power forwards, 21st versus small forwards. It's a pretty solid matchup for him. On the season, he's been about a point per minute guy, 0.99 points per minute, so pretty much a point per minute guy. Got him projected for over 30 minutes. I think it's a safe bet to get him over 30 fantasy points. He's not going to grade as a super strong point per dollar option, but I think he's fine just as a mid-range play. Then we got Bojan Bogdanovic here at 5,900. And, I just want exposure probably to some of these Utah guys just because Houston's so bad defensively. And if the game stays close, 5,900 is not a bad price for Bojan here. I think he'd probably get you over 30 fantasy points. And like I said, Houston's one of the worst defensive teams in the NBA. They rank 26 versus forwards, small forwards, 28 versus power forwards, 27 versus shooting guards. You guys get the idea. Very bad defensive team. It's also a really nice pace-up spot here for the Jazz. Third in pace of play, the Rockets are, and then 26th in pace is the Jazz. So I like the pace-up spot. On the season, he's at 0.93 points per minute. He's got a 27% usage rate. I think he's a fine play. He's a mid-range play. Not going to grade out as a super elite point per dollar option, but he's fine. Then we got Ben McLemore at 5,800. Like I said, DraftKings did a pretty good job pricing these guys up because I would never pay this much for Ben McLemore, but you got my interest with both these guys off the court. So with both those guys off the court, McLemore's at 0.91 points per minute. Not great, but not terrible either. And, there's just so much usage to go around, so much minutes. I think he could probably flirt with about 30 minutes here. He's a fine option. 25 to 30 points, I think that's a solid baseline for him. Not going to really talk too much about him, though. Tristan Thompson. So he has been burning a lot of us recently. Now, I haven't personally played him, but I thought he was a good play versus Chicago, and I thought he was a pretty solid play versus Memphis. Was not the case. He was absolutely terrible. But last time he played Detroit, he had 65 fantasy points. Not saying that's going to happen again, but he abused Andre Drummond down low. And, I'm sure a lot of people are done with him. Once you get burned 2 times with this guy. Whoops, sorry, I put on my Discord. Once you get burned 2 times by a guy, I totally get it. I wouldn't want to play him either. But you got to remove emotion from DFS, and you just got to look at the numbers. And it's a pretty good spot for Tristan Thompson here. We've seen big men have pretty good games versus Detroit. Jahlil Okafor absolutely he pummeled Andre Drummond. He had a huge game. And Tristan Thompson, he destroyed Andre Drummond as well. And on the season, Thompson's at pretty much a point per minute guy, 0.99 points per minute. He's got upside. He's also got downside. So I wouldn't say he's a cash game play, but I think he's a pretty solid GPP play, especially if you want to get exposure to this game. I actually think this is a pretty solid game to stack up if you want. It's not like there's 2 fast-paced teams or anything, and it's only like a 219 total, if I remember correctly. But there's some fairly priced guys here, and 2 pretty bad defensive teams, especially in Cleveland. So I could see the appeal. Joe Ingles, again, just pretty decently cheap exposure against the Rockets. A nice pace-up spot, like I said. On the season, he is at 0.86 points per minute, but he's pretty much a safe bet for 25-plus points every single night. 5,400 is not a bad price tag, so you could certainly look his way. Larry Nance, now the minutes aren't going to be great. I only got him projected for 24 as of right now, but he's been playing pretty well recently. I know he had a big game versus Chicago. And then, was the last game he had a big game? I think it was. But he's been playing pretty well recently in the minutes. They've actually been fluctuating. I think he had 28 minutes in the one game. But this is a pretty good spot versus Detroit. We know that. Like I said, I like exposure to this game. On the season, he's at 0.92 points per minute on the season. He's fine. I'm not going to go too in-depth about Larry Nance, but he's a nice lineup filler. I probably prefer Joe Ingles, but I think they're both fine. Thaddeus Young, he hasn't been smashing with Markkanen out, but still got him projected for over 30 minutes. He's only 4,900. He's fine. He's going to get over 30 minutes, and with Markkanen out, he's near a point per minute guy. And it's a solid matchup versus San Antonio. They're actually a little bit better versus big men, but he's fine at 4,900. He's going to grade out as a pretty good point per dollar option on this slate for me. Darius Garland, not a guy I like the roster because he's just not very good. He's an absolutely terrible defender. If you guys want to look at his defensive rating on here, it's at 119. I don't know if you guys, 119. And also his offensive rating's pretty bad at 94. So pretty much suggesting he's been one of the worst players. But his defensive rating is absolutely awful. And that's why I said I like Derrick Rose, because him and Colin Sexton Colin Sexton has a 118 defensive rating, and Darius Garland has a 119 defensive rating. Derrick Rose should be able to absolutely eat them alive. But getting a little bit sidetracked here, we already talked about Derrick Rose, but just making more of a case for Derrick Rose on this slate. Darius Garland, like I said, Detroit does struggle with shooting guards. He's going to shoot the ball quite a bit. Now, it's probably not going to go in a lot, but he's fine at 4,800. Now, he's only been at 0.7 points per minute on this season, but he does have over a 20% usage rate. He should get near 35 minutes. He's fine, but just know he's not that very good of a basketball player. Jordan Clarkson, he's not going to see big minutes, but he's been about a point per minute guy, and it is a good matchup versus Houston. Nice pace-up spot here. I think he can probably get you 25 fantasy points, which is actually pretty solid at 4,600. So you could certainly look his way. He's got a 25% usage rate. Reggie Jackson, he's not going to see huge minutes, but the past 2 games when he's played, he's had over 30 fantasy points. I got him projected for like 23 minutes in this game, but in a short stint this season, he's been at 1.23 points per minute on the season, 25.4% usage rate. That's actually pretty solid. I wouldn't say he's the safest play in the world, but 4,300 is not a bad price, and he's been playing very well, so you could certainly look his way. Royce O'Neal, he's more of a lineup filler kind of guy. I'd probably rather play Reggie Jackson, but he's going up against Houston. Now, the numbers suck for him. He's only at 0.65 points per minute in the season, only an 8% usage rate. But I think he could trip his fall on his way into like 15 to 20 fantasy points. So he's on my radar. PJ Tucker, again, you're going to see a couple of these. Actually, like 4 out of the last 5 guys on this list are Rockets guys. But you're going to want exposure to these guys because obviously Harden and Russell Westbrook are off the court. So big ups to a lot of these just usual guys that stand in the corner and do nothing on the Rockets. And that's PJ Tucker. That's what he does. He stands in the corner and does absolutely nothing. He's an 8% usage rate in the season. With both those guys off the court, really doesn't change. He's still at 8% usage rate, but he is at 0.63 points per minute, which does not change. So really, he does not get a boost here with them off the court, but I feel like he's going to. It's not the biggest sample size with them off the court, so he's fine. He's going to play probably close to 40 minutes. I mean, I got him projected for 35, but that's just kind of being conservative. He'll push for 40 here and there. Now, you're going to have to get lucky for him to get over 20 fantasy points, but I do think he can do that with those guys off the court. Maybe he gets a double-double. That's pushing it. He does not score a lot of points, but maybe he hits a couple threes, a couple corner threes. That's a shot. I mean, I could see a scenario where you get there. 4,100 is not a bad price tag either. Now, the matchup's not that great versus Utah, but can't get too picky with these guys. Daniel House, he's in the same boat as PJ Tucker, although he does have a higher usage rate, which I do like. His usage rate is at 20 or near 20%, which is nice, and he's at 0.67 points per minute, which again does not change with them off the court, unfortunately. But he's fine. He's gonna get 30. Not going to absolutely get 33 minutes. I'm projected for over 30 minutes here. He might be able to get you over 20 fantasy points. Again, a lot of these guys are. I mean, they're not exciting plays, but with James Harden and Russell Westbrook off the court, the slack's got to get picked up by someone. So now Austin Rivers, he's definitely going to probably be a little bit popular here at 30. Not a little bit. He's probably going to be popular at 3,600. I mean, he's going to get 30 minutes, if not more. And now in the season, he's been pretty bad, 0.67 points per minute. But with them both of them off the court, he's got over a 22% usage rate, and he's at 0.91 points per minute. If you're going to give you 30 minutes at 0.91 points per minute, you're going to be a pretty good play. So Austin Rivers, definitely on my radar for sure. There's just a lot of minutes to go around for Houston. Trey Lyles, so it's pretty much that he's just cheap. Now, he's not an exciting play, but I got him for about 20 minutes here, and it's an elite matchup versus Chicago. As you can see, they're ranked 30th versus power forwards, 30th versus centers. He's been about, a point per minute guy? 0.86 points per minute. I think he's fine. I'd probably rather play these Rocket cheap guys just because the minutes are probably going to be a little bit more secure and the roles are going to be expanded, but Trey Lyles is fine. But Chris Clemens, he comes in at the dirt cheap minimum price tag on DraftKings at $3K. Got him projected for a little bit over 20 minutes here, but on the season, he's at a 23% usage rate, 0.96 points per minute. But with Westbrook and James Harden off the court, numbers are pretty good, and this is a big sample size. I'm talking over 100 minutes sample size. With both of them off the court, he's got a 33% usage rate, 1.28 points per minute. At 3K, can't ask for much more. I think he's going to get you over 20 fantasy points. So Chris Clemens, certainly on my radar. Just make sure that he's going to be in the game plan here, but he should be, especially if he gets over 20 fantasy points. I think he's a pretty easy play at bare minimum. And honestly, with all the value on this slate, it might not be too far-fetched to be able to fit in guys like Levine, Drummond, or even Karl-Anthony Towns, which I know I don't even have him on here, or maybe even Luka. I don't have Luka on here, but you guys know I like Luka. It was kind of a gross matchup for him, but yeah, Luka's fine too. But anyway, guys, I think this is going to be it for this video. I don't have anyone else I want to talk about, but I do want to talk about the sponsor of the show, OverlayDFS.com. Okay, so overlaydfs.com, it's a new website that reached out to me and wanted me to try it out, and I like it. I like it a lot. I would not recommend this to you guys if I didn't play so myself. As you can see, I played it. I'm cpen16. That's my username on pretty much everything. Did not do that well tonight. I was 7-4. Had to get at least 8-3 to get into the money. But I do enjoy playing over here. It's a very casual, easy website to understand. There's no salary cap restrictions. There's no shark players like Chipotle you got to worry about on here. It's pretty much just a pick-em website. If you thought Kawhi Leonard was going to score more points than Damian Lillard tonight, you pick Kawhi Leonard. Now, that was not a good pick. As you can see, Damian Lillard went absolutely nuts again. But if you thought Sabonis was going to outscore Vucevic, you pick Sabonis. I got that one right. I thought Jared Allen was going to outscore Marcus Morris. Did not happen, but you guys get the idea. It's as simple as it sounds. You pick whoever you think is going to score more fantasy points. You do not have to build a lineup, worry about salary cap issues. So if you want to still play DraftKings and then you want to supplement it with something like overlaydfs.com, check it out. It's a very fun website. They got good people over there, and it's a legit website. They pay you out quick. I'm not just talking about putting it back into your DraftKings balance or overlay DFS balance. When I withdraw to my PayPal, I get it in less than 24 hours, and it's in my bank account. I'll withdraw at 2 a.m. sometimes in my bank account by 4 p.m. the same day if I was talking about 2 a.m. So overlaydfs.com, check it out. And they're also running a jackpot if you go 12-0. So this is just a small $2 Pee-wee contest. They also have a $22 contest that I like to play in almost every single night. And the $22 contest, the jackpot, if you go 12-0, is right now over $7,000. Now, I know it's 12-0 doesn't sound too hard, but obviously it's going to be challenging. I've been close a couple of nights. I went 10-2 a couple of nights. I almost went 11-1 one night, but been very close to the 12-0. But if you happen to go 12-0, you get over $7,000. If you happen to go 12-0 in the Pee-wee contest, which is $2, you get, as of right now, probably going to go up to $900 tomorrow. And if you happen to finish in the top 10% of the contest, which is how you win $9 extra money. So if you're in the $22 double deuce contest, you'll win $180, and it's as simple as that. You just gotta finish in the top 10%, which I don't want to make it sound easy, but just make the right picks, and if you happen to get in the top 10%, you'll win money. If you want help on who to pick, you can check out my projections. That was what I use to make my picks every single night. Now, I know it wouldn't have worked out too well for tonight, but most of the time I had pretty successful nights. So if you want access to my projections, links in the description below for my Patreon. I do not have a sign-up link, or you don't have to use a promo code. Just go over there and sign up. It's at overlaydfs.com. Check it out. They got good people over there, and it's a pretty fun website. I do enjoy playing over there in addition to the DraftKings that I play every single night. So check it out. And like I said, if you want access to my spreadsheets, links available in the description below for my Patreon. You can follow my socials. I'm at ChrisPennell16 at Instagram. On Instagram at cpen16. Again, Instagram's not that exciting, but if you just want to follow me on over there, you certainly could. And don't forget, NASCAR's coming up soon. I'm very excited for that. MLB is as well, so we're going to be locked and loaded. Very excited. We're going to have 3 sports going at the same time. I'm going to be busy, but I'm going to love it. So, again, overlaydfs.com. Check it out. Patreon, links in the description below. And I'm going to check out and go to bed. All right, have a good day.